The text message glowed on my phone at 2:17 a.m., wrong number, sorry. But the picture that came with it wasn't meant for me, or any wife. My husband of 8 years, sleeping in another woman's bed. If you've ever felt your world collapse in a single moment, stay with me. This isn't just my story, it might be yours too. If this resonates with you, please like this video and subscribe to follow my journey from betrayal to something I never expected. I stared at that phone for what felt like hours, my fingers trembling as I zoomed in on the image. There was no mistake. The Celtic knot tattoo on his shoulder. The watch I'd given him for our anniversary. David, my husband, the man who'd promised forever, tangled in sheets that weren't ours. My name is Eliza Mitchell. I was 34, working as a marketing director at a firm I'd helped build from the ground up. David and I met in college. He was the charming architecture student who sketched the skyline on napkins and promised to build me a dream house someday. We'd been trying for a baby for 3 years. 3 years of temperature tracking, doctor visits, disappointments, and hope that dwindled with each negative test. That night, I didn't wake him when he slipped into bed at 3:30 a.m. I smelled unfamiliar perfume and whiskey on his breath as he mumbled something about client drinks running late. I lay there, rigid, tears silently soaking my pillow, wondering how long this had been happening. Wondering what I'd done wrong. The next morning, I watched him prepare for work, whistling, adjusting his tie in the mirror, kissing my cheek before heading out the door. The performance was flawless. 8 years together, and I'd never noticed he was such a good actor. Late meeting tonight, he said casually. Don't wait up. I nodded, my smile brittle. Have a good day. When the door closed, I sank to the kitchen floor and finally let myself break. The sobs came from somewhere deep and primal, a wounded animal sound I didn't recognize as my own voice. My best friend Nora came over within 20 minutes of my call. She held me while I showed her the message, her face hardening as she scrolled through our text history, finding other suspicious patterns I'd been too trusting to see. What are you going to do? She asked finally. I don't know, I whispered. I can't even think straight. You need evidence, she said firmly. And time to figure out what you want. What did I want? Revenge? Divorce? To pretend I never saw the message? To fight for my marriage? The questions swirled as I moved through the following days in a fog, playing the role of unsuspecting wife while secretly checking his phone when he showered, following his location on the shared app we'd set up years ago, for safety. Her name was Vanessa. She worked at his firm. They'd been seeing each other for 7 months. I learned all this from emails I found, messages that spoke of a connection that felt inevitable and real. He told her his marriage was essentially over, but he didn't know how to leave. He called me controlling. Frigid. Said I was obsessed with getting pregnant and had forgotten how to live. Each discovery was a fresh wound. I lost weight. Couldn't sleep. Started making mistakes at work. My boss noticed, suggested I take some time off. I refused. Work was the only place where I could pretend my life wasn't imploding. 3 weeks after the text, I found myself sitting in a hotel bar after a client meeting. I'd ordered a glass of wine, staring at the amber liquid without drinking it, when someone sat beside me. That drink looks like it's carrying the weight of the world, a voice said. I looked up to meet kind brown eyes. He was older than me, maybe mid-40s, with salt and pepper hair and laugh lines that suggested a life well lived. The drink's fine, I said. It's the person drinking it that's the problem. His name was James. He was in town for a medical conference, a cardiologist who specialized in repairing broken hearts, he joked. The irony wasn't lost on me. We talked for hours. About everything except my marriage. For the first time in weeks, I laughed. Really laughed. Would you like to have dinner? He asked when the bar began to fill with the evening crowd. I touched my wedding ring, twisting it around my finger. I'm married. I figured, he said gently. But you seem like you could use a friend tonight. Friend. The word felt safe. Dinner was just dinner, I told myself. Just conversation with someone who didn't know my shame, my failure, my crumbling life. Over pasta and more wine, I found myself telling him everything. The text. The discovery. The weeks of silent suffering. What do you want to do? He asked, echoing Nora's question. Part of me wants to hurt him like he hurt me, I admitted, the wine loosening my tongue. Make him feel what I'm feeling. James studied me thoughtfully. And would that make you feel better? I don't know, I whispered. Nothing makes me feel better. When he walked me to my room, he didn't try to kiss me. Just squeezed my hand and gave me his card. If you need to talk, he said. Sometimes strangers make the best confidants. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. The next morning, David called to say he'd be home late again. Another client meeting. I heard her laugh in the background before he hurriedly ended the call. Something shifted in me then. Not just pain, but anger. White-hot and clarifying. I called James. That offer to talk, I said when he answered. Is it still open? We met for coffee. Then dinner again. Then drinks the following night. He never pushed, never suggested anything beyond friendship, but I felt something awakening in me, not just desire, but a reminder that I was still desirable. Still worthy of attention and respect. On the fourth night, I kissed him. In the elevator of his hotel, impulsively, desperately. He kissed me back for a moment before gently pulling away. Eliza, he said softly. This isn't what you really want. How do you know what I want? I demanded, embarrassment and rejection burning my cheeks. Because revenge affairs don't heal anything, he said. They just create more wounds. I stepped back, tears threatening. Then why have you been spending time with me? Because you needed someone to see you, he said simply. To remind you that you're more than what's happening to you right now. I left his hotel feeling both ashamed and strangely lighter. He was right. Cheating on David wouldn't undo his betrayal. It would only make me someone I didn't recognize, someone who acted from pain rather than principle. That night, I packed a bag and went to Nora's. I couldn't stay in our house another night, playing a role in a marriage that existed only in my mind. David called 17 times before I answered. Where are you? He demanded. I came home and all your things are gone. I know about Vanessa, I said, my voice steadier than I expected. I've known for weeks. The silence stretched between us, a chasm wider than words could bridge. Liz, I can explain. Don't, I cut him off. There's nothing to explain. I saw the pictures. Read the emails. I know everything. It's not what you think, he started, but his voice lacked conviction. It's exactly what I think, I said. You've been living a double life, and I've been too blind or too scared to see it. Did you? He hesitated. Have you been with someone else too? The question stunned me. Even now, he was looking for equivalence, for something to diminish his guilt. No, I said truthfully. But I considered it. I wanted to hurt you like you hurt me. Then why didn't you? His voice was small, confused. Because I realized something. This isn't about you anymore. It's about who I want to be. And I don't want to be someone who betrays their own values just to get even. The weeks that followed were a blur of lawyer meetings, division of assets, and well-meaning friends asking if we'd considered counseling. David begged for another chance. Said he'd end things with Vanessa. Said it was just a mistake, a midlife crisis, a reaction to the pressure of our fertility struggles. I almost wavered. The fear of starting over at 34 was real. The thought of dating again, of trusting again, felt impossible. But every time I considered reconciliation, I remembered the casual way he'd lied. The double life he'd maintained while I grieved our childlessness alone. 6 months after the text that changed everything, our divorce was finalized. I moved to a smaller apartment closer to my office. Started therapy. Joined a support group for women rebuilding after betrayal. Slowly, I began to recognize myself again in the mirror. James and I kept in touch, just friends, as he'd promised. He lived across the country, but his perspective helped me navigate the darker days. "You didn't lose your marriage when you found that text," he told me once. "You lost it long before, when he decided to live a lie. All you lost that night was the illusion." A year after the divorce, I received another unexpected message. This one from a fertility clinic I'd visited with David. They were updating their records and needed to confirm if we still wanted to keep our embryos in storage, 3 viable embryos we'd created during our last round of IVF, just before everything fell apart. I sat staring at the message, a strange calm settling over me. Those embryos represented the family we tried to create, the future I'd imagined. But they also represented possibility, my possibility, with or without a partner. After much soul-searching and legal consultation, I made the decision to pursue single motherhood using our embryos. David had signed away his rights in our divorce settlement, a concession he'd made to keep his retirement accounts intact. The process wasn't easy. There were more shots, more appointments, more anxious waits. But 9 months later, I held my daughter in my arms, a tiny, perfect being who represented not the marriage I'd lost, but the strength I'd found. I named her Hope. Today, Hope is 3. She has David's eyes but my stubborn determination. Sometimes I catch glimpses of him in her expressions, and it no longer hurts. Instead, I feel gratitude for the complicated path that led to her. As for me, I'm different now. Stronger. More compassionate, even toward David, who eventually married Vanessa. They have a son now. We've found a way to co-parent respectfully, if distantly. I never did cheat on my husband. But in a way, I did cheat the narrative he created, the one where I was the controlling wife, the desperate woman, the victim. I chose a different story. My own story. And James? We're still friends. Sometimes more. The distance makes it complicated, but we're figuring it out slowly. He's good with Hope. Patient. Kind. The opposite of rushed passion and secret texts. So if you're watching this because you're where I was, staring at evidence of betrayal, feeling like your world is ending, know this, it isn't. It's changing. And change, while painful, carries the seeds of transformation. The greatest revenge isn't sleeping with someone else. It's living well. It's rebuilding. It's choosing yourself. If my story has touched you, please like this video and subscribe to follow more of my journey. Because while this chapter is ending, my story, and yours, continues beyond betrayal, beyond pain, into something we create for ourselves.